What's going on, golf addicts? It is the Tour Junkies podcast for the Wyndham Championship. David here, Pat with me. We're going to get into this. It's going to be a great show tonight, Pat. I hope you're doing well. Coming off the PGA Championship hangover. It's always tough coming off a major, but we haven't had one in a long time. We haven't felt said hangover in over 12 months. We are going to get into the PGA Championship. That is going to be the last segment tonight. So the thoughts on the PGA and all the different storylines and players we are going to hammer out at the end of the show tonight so we can move into the Wyndham. But Pat, before we get into that stuff, how you feeling? What's the podcast juice of the evening?
Well, I'm feeling good. The post-major hangover isn't as bad as I thought it might be. I think it's probably because, like you said, it's been so long since we've had a major, so I forgot what it's like to be hungover from one. But so I recovered nicely, I think. And I'm recovering nicely with a vodka drink, but it's not Tito's. It's a little different one that you had put me on to. I believe it's called Wild Leap.
Yes.
Is that correct? And
yes.
It is fantastic. Out of LaGrange, Georgia.
Holla.
It's so local to us, sort of, in our neck of the woods.
I believe it's pronounced LaGrange.
LaGrange. Is that how Ron Burgundy pronounces it?
I actually have a new bottle I just picked up. I've got it here on standby just in case I need it later. But yeah, I mean, you know what? We moved on from Tito's. In the early days it was Tito's, and you know what? It's one of those that, people know the name of it and they think it's the best, but really when you explore and when you open your eyes a little bit, there's a whole new world out there. And
you got to try new things. You got to be willing to do that. Try new things.
Also new on the podcast, you may notice my old backdrop is here. We've got the old backdrop. I'm getting off my G6 here. I'm the kind of the I don't know what word I'm looking for.
The diva.
The jet setter.
the jet setter. Okay, that might be better than diva.
I'm kind of that guy. So I got my old background here. I'm pumped up about that. Maybe get some new juices flowing, some new vibes going. That could be fun. Really excited about this week though, because for me, as a long shot loving son of a gun, the Wyndham Championship sets up for long shots, and so it gets my juices flowing. It gets me going. I'm pumped about it, and we have some new stuff happening over on tourjunkies.com this week. We need to make sure everybody knows about. There's a new structure to the Chalk Bomb email, and some new and old content coming to the Tour Junkies website. A lot of changes going on this week. A lot of changes. So the first thing I'll say is this: the Chalk Bomb is getting we're kind of trimming the fat on the Chalk Bomb.
It's getting a little bit of a facelift, if you will.
Really, it's more like lipo. We're just taking things out of the Chalk Bomb. We're not really adding anything new. We're liposuctioning the Chalk Bomb is what we're gonna do. We're gonna suck the fat right out of it, but we're gonna take that fat and shoot it right over into our website. So it's kind of like taking fat, like if you were fat in your in your thigh area, and you took a little fat out of your thigh, but you looked at your like maybe your
hind side, your hiney area,
or you needed a little ass lift. You put it in there. That's kind of what we're doing. So the Chalk Bomb, we are now going to. So here's what's going to stay in the Chalk Bomb: the opening thoughts, which is important, which talks about kind of our approach to the week, head-to-head matchups, and how we analyze 3 or 4 head-to-head matchups every week. Obviously, the Chalk Bomb is going to stay in the Chalk Bomb, or that would be weird. And Pontificate with Pat is going to stay in the Chalk Bomb. What, am I missing something? I think that's it. I think that's it.
You said the 10 facts, right? Because everybody loves the 10 facts.
10 facts are not staying in the Chalk Bomb.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, never mind. Didn't know that.
Yeah, this is all new information to Pat, too. He's no, it's
I was just focused on you not taking out Pontificate with Pat. I mean, that was what I was really okay. But go ahead.
So the 10 facts will be on the website every Tuesday. So Ben is going to put the 10 facts, the 10 key stats you need to know to get your research. We feel like you need those early in the week. You need the 10 key stats earlier in the week to start working through your process. So he's going to give you the 10 key stats for free on the website every Tuesday, okay, on tourjunkies.com. If you're going, wait a minute, I got to have DB's Big Balls betting card that's up on the year, even though we're going through a little cold streak right now. I got to have DB's Big Balls betting card. Where's that going to be? Well, it's also going to be on tourjunkies.com. Oh, man, DB, be crazy not to put that behind the paywall. It's so amazing. No. I'm not going to put it behind the paywall. It's going to also be free. So on tourjunkies.com, DB's Big Balls betting card is also going to hit on Tuesdays. I'm going to do some stuff late Tuesday afternoon, and then probably want to check it again on Wednesday, every Wednesday, because I'm going to add possibly some first round leader bets as well, depending on weather and all that kind of stuff. And then, as always, Fantasy Golf Sommelier is going to be out on Wednesdays, despite this being year 2, where Pat said he would have it out on Tuesdays. It will also be out on Wednesdays. I miss anything? I think that's it.
Well, the new one.
Oh, yeah, the new one. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have a new one out on Wednesdays also. This is the new content. So all we're doing right now is, liposuctioning the old, putting it right in just a new spot. The new content is going to be something I'm going to work on called the pivot point, which Ben tells us, because he's very smart and he's a day trader, tells us that has something to do with stocks, okay? So I'm going to act like I know what that means. It's called the pivot point, and it's going to address popular players. So it'll give me till Wednesday to kind of see who's popular, who's not. I'm going to go through popular players and then who I think the pivots from that should be in GPPs and why. I'm going to try to sell you on that. And that will also be free on tourjunkies.com. All of that starting this week. So tomorrow, you should see the 10 key stats. You should see the beginning phases of my betting card. And then Wednesday, you'll get the Fantasy Golf Sommelier and the pivot point. I believe I got all that right.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Chalk Bomb is still coming. So Chalk Bomb will hit your emails. It'll just be a little quicker read. But that's what's going on in our world right now. Well, and the Nut Hut got a facelift over the weekend. For those of you who were in the Nut Hut on Wednesday night of the PGA when it overloaded because there were so many of you, we apologize. We sent you an email. We've already upgraded it one time. It's a temporary fix, and it is way better. It works on mobile. It's fast. Nobody's getting kicked out. Super clean. So if we pissed you off in the Nut Hut and you canceled your membership, then please come back. It's only $10 a month. But there are going to be more permanent fixes in place coming soon. Stay tuned for that. Also, one last announcement, our new partnership with the Props Network. We would really appreciate it if you guys go out and follow the Props Network. Check them out on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I think they even have a TikTok account. But the Props Network is our new partner that we are working with to provide the best golf betting content around. Okay, these guys are generational handicappers. They come from a long line of sportsbook operators, casino operators, all kind of stuff. And the thing that we loved about the Props Network is golf is their number one, right? Because all these betting content sites are going to pound the NFL and the NBA, Major League Baseball. Golf is going to just kind of be here and there. And in the during major weeks, it'll be great. Not the Props Network, not at all. So we're glad to partner with those guys. There's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming with that. One of which is
if you want to follow them on Twitter, which you mentioned, at Props Network HQ. So at Props Network, Harry Quality. You know what? Whenever you're like
pick that up in the military,
whenever you're trying to like
Harry Quality,
whenever you're trying to give out like a spelling over the phone, I have the worst time coming up with the words that go to the letter. Like it's like, and it's obviously never military related. So it's just like all over the damn place. I'm sure the people on the other line are like, what in the hell is he coming up?
And I feel such pressure when I have to do that. When I have to when I have to come up with that, and it's like, oh my God, like I can't think of a name. I cannot possibly think of a word that starts with the letter S, and you're like, God, why can't I think of that? Is there more pressure trying to think of that, or do you do this too? When you're typing and somebody's watching you type, like if you're typing an email or typing a response to something, you want somebody to look at it and you're typing it or a text, do you feel pressure at that point?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I don't type
I
as
don't.
well. Like I skip keys and stuff. I
Yeah. Yeah.
freeze, everything
And I'm
locks
a
up.
very good, I fancy myself a very good typer. I mean, like even in high school when I took typing class, I mean, I was,
Yeah.
I don't know what my words per minute were, but it was
You should have
pretty
been
incredible.
a secretary back in the day. You should have been a
Yeah, maybe.
um
Anyway, but yeah, the
what
pressure's
was I
on when
saying?
I'm having to come.
Uh,
We were
oh,
talking
the
about
other
the
thing.
yeah.
There's already something happening with the Props Network. Starts next week for those that have Sirius XM radio and listen to the Tony Bruno show. Starting next Wednesday, I believe. Isn't it Wednesday? I don't know, I think it's Wednesday. And don't quote us on this. I think it's Wednesday.
It's
We
definitely
will
Wednesday.
be appearing on what?
It's definitely Wednesday.
Okay. We will be appearing on Tony Bruno's show every Wednesday, talking about golf, talking about DFS, talking about golf betting. It's going to be a good time. We'll have a nice little hit there, and both of us will get to do it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure and check that out. Oh, I think it's on Dan Patrick's channel, which I don't know. Do you know what channel that is on XM? We'll learn.
Yeah,
I think
I don't know.
it's on Dan Patrick
It's
radio
like
channel.
212 or something. It's up in the 200 range, somewhere in there.
Nice. All right, bud. Well, that's exciting stuff. Like I said, we'll get to the PGA Championship recap at the end of the podcast. Let's get into this week at the Wyndham. We're going to give you the course breakdown, key stats. Then we're going to get into our DFS picks. And, then we're going to talk about some betting. I've got some juicy numbers. Like I said, this really gets me giggly with these long shot potential winners here at the Wyndham. Let's get to it. Tell us about the golf course, the Sedgefield Country Club.
Yes, the Wyndham Championship in Greensboro, North Carolina, Sedgefield Country Club. Great course. It is a par 70 playing just over 7,100 yards. It's actually one of the shorter par 70s that we see all year. I think it's probably comparable to like the Sony Open course there. But it's a classic Donald Ross design. You're going to get those kind of slopey, small greens where there's a lot of runoffs, but a lot of undulation. It's Bermuda grass, tee to green. This typically ranks as one of the easier courses on tour. I mean, we see very low scoring here. You got tree line fairways that are relatively tight, but they're not all that difficult to hit. I don't think driving accuracy is necessarily going to be that key. You do want to try to keep it in the fairway, but the rough isn't going to be all that, heavy. So I do want guys that can hit it in the fairway. I'm just not saying that, a bomber still can't, win around this course. But it's definitely around these greens. I mean, you've got to hit them in the right spots, and you got to be good. If you do miss them, you got to be good at scrambling. So, I mean, that's what you typically see with Donald Ross designs and Donald Ross greens. That is really what when he sets up a course, it's like he starts with the greens and goes backwards. I mean, it's all about that, all about the approach play and the ball striking. I think we're going to play this course relatively soft this week. We're getting storms almost every single day like we do in the South here. It's going to soften up this course a lot, but they'll run pretty quick. I mean, the greens are going to run true and quick, but I still think they're going to set up for a ton of scoring. Both of these par fives are reachable, so all the folks out here should be able to score on those. As far as stats for me, I'm definitely looking at form and history here, looking at greens and regulation and ball striking. I mentioned scrambling is something that I do like. And I like opportunities gained, which is a stat on Fantasy National, just, that gives you sort of an indication of where somebody is as far as giving themselves scoring opportunities. So I like that as well. Looking at past champions, we've got JT Poston last year at 21 under, Brandt Snedeker in 2018, also 21 under, Henrik Stenson at 22 under, Siwoo Kim 21 under. You just see it right down the line. The last four winners, right? 21, 22 under, and then you had Davis Love at in 2015 at 17 under. So
Davis Love,
yeah, DL3. He came out of nowhere and won that year, didn't he? It extended his tour career just like an extra couple of years, just because he won. I mean, because he was close to being on the senior tour right then. Anyway, so there you go. Quick rundown. We got T65 and ties, by the way, this week. So not like last week where the PGA said we had T70. We got T65 as we will at all tour events. So there you go. That is the rundown for Sedgefield.
Very nice, very nice. Do you need to pull money out of TJ and pay for a power bill? Because you look like you're in the dark. You look like you're actually in a dark wine cellar, like underground.
For some reason, like the light just like lowered. So let me while you're giving your
okay.
We'll lighten it up a little bit here.
Yeah, I definitely was not paying much attention during Pat's course preview there.
You were looking at the chat, weren't you?
No, I was not actually. Oh, there. That's much better. I can see your lovely face now. No, I was not looking at chat. I don't know. I do think accuracy matters. A little, maybe it sounds like a little more than you do, but it's not a long course. It's it's tree line, tight-ish. I think fairways are important because hitting the right tiers on these undulating Donald Ross greens is going to be pretty good. I mean, ultimately, you got to score here. You cannot Bill Haas your way around this damn golf course. Like, you got to – par is not your friend. Birdie is your friend. Birdies and eagles galore. You mentioned the scoring there. Basically in the 20s, is in the 20s the last 4 years other than the DL3 and 5 years ago. And I don't know what who was he even playing against back then? Like, did anybody else show up that week? He won at 17 under, and it was DL3 in 2015. Like, who was he playing? Was Club Pro guy in the field, or maybe I don't know, somebody terrible back, like Lynn Matisse? Was he in the field?
I don't know if Lynn Matisse was in there, but Craig Perks, was he there?
Who?
I see.
who was the guy that wore the who's the guy that always wore like the wristband? Scott Verplank. It sounds like a Scott Verplank, Jeff Maggart.
I thought you were like Jesper Parnevik, maybe. Was Jesper in this
yeah.
one?
Jesper. Tons of birdies and eagles. That's what you got to do. So, it's accuracy. It's very solid iron play. I think that's number one if you want to look at stats. And it's putting well on these Champion Bermuda grass greens. These are true Bermuda down here in the South. Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I like form a lot as well. There's some events where par is your friend. I think you can come in not quite as hot and get around and be okay. But I think in events like this where it's a shootout, you got to be confident. You got to be firing away. You got to feel like you can attack any pin location. So I do want in-form players, guys that are going to score, guys that are going to go low. And as I mentioned, long shots have done well here. 3 out of the last 5 winners have been triple-digit winners. Davis Love III was 500 to 1. If I hit a guy at 500, I want to go ahead and let you know. If I ever hit a guy at 500 to 1, like publicly, I don't even care if I put $1 on him. If I publicly tout a human man at 500 to 1 and hit it, it's going on my grave, on my gravestone. Like, it's going, it will be everywhere. It will be in our Twitter bio. It will be everywhere. 500 to 1. Let's see. Sneds and Poston, I think, or maybe Siwoo and Poston were both the other triple digit. Poston was 100 to 1.
I don't think Sneds or Stinson were.
No, he wasn't. No, I know Stinson wasn't. You're right. It was Siwoo and Poston. Poston was 100 to 1. He was coming in good form. So it can, anybody could come up and win this thing this week. And we'll talk about that a little bit.
I think Stinson's sort of an example of what you'll see. Everybody always talks about him hitting a 3-wood off the tee a lot and things like that, and sort of dialing it back off the tee. It's not like Stinson's a short guy. As far as how he hits the ball, he just never hits his driver, so we don't really know. But I think you're going to see that a lot with guys like your longer guys. I mean, Kepka's in the field right now. I think they'll be dialing it back off the tee a little bit, and so I say this to say, like, I wouldn't just throw out the bombers, because even though I do agree that you do have to be fairly accurate. But just because you may see a bomber out here on this course and you're looking at the stats, but they're terrible as far as driving accuracy, well, that may not, correlate, because they may be hitting an iron off the tee or a 3-wood off the tee, and it may just be a little bit different. So I don't know, than what they're normally doing, bombing it with their driver off the tee. So,
yeah. Length, always an advantage, and definitely course history here. This does seem like a spot where if you're comfortable in the South, you're comfortable on Donald Ross, you're comfortable on Bermuda, you kind of understand the pin locations here, the levels on these greens, the undulation on these greens, the angles that you need from the fairway to attack them. I do think that it carries a little more weight this week than a couple other of these events we've had here in the last few weeks. So, as always, our stats brought to you by Fantasy National, our friends at fantasynational.com/TJ. If you use that URL, fantasynational.com/TJ, will hook you up with 20% off any membership, weekly, monthly, or annually. You can try it for a week. If you love it, you can then switch it to a month or an annual subscription, and you still get the 20% off because the Tour Junkies referred you. That's just where we get everything. So all the stats we mentioned, it's where we find our course history data, our recent form data. We look at ownership projections for DFS. There's a ton of content now with the custom models. The new stuff that they built over there that Moose and the gang have built at Fantasy National is incredible. We've been using them for 3 years. It is our only source for stats. It's a fantastic website, and they've been longtime supporters of the Tour Junkies and our listeners. So please give them a look if you have not already. Go to fantasynational.com/TJ, or just when you sign up, you can just put in promo code Tour Junkies or whatever. Ready to move on to the picks there, Patrick? Look at DraftKings.
Yes.
Some picking. Want to do some picking?
I'm ready.
Let's look at the top of this board because here we go. Brooks Koepka, who we will definitely probably not be done talking about after we move on from his name here, because I feel like we're going to talk about him at the PGA Championship recap. But Brooks with a pretty brutal Sunday. By the way, I will go ahead and say this in case people skip the end. Brooks Koepka was the chalk bomb last week, and we got all kinds of chatter. You know who you are. If you are listening to this right now, do not skip. I want you to sit and lather in the guilt that you should feel if you chirped at us prior to Sunday. Golf tournaments, Pat, how many rounds are golf tournaments? How many rounds are they?
I believe 4.
Four rounds are golf tournaments.
That's 72 holes.
We had people chirping at us after 18, after 36, after 54. How could you pick Brooks Koepka? What are you thinking? I had one guy email us, and he did it kind of nicely. He was saying he was a fan of the show, but he took the time to email us and tell us how crazy we were, how crazy Ben was specifically, to nail Brooks Koepka as the chalk bomb. But never forget, it's a 4-round tournament, okay? And what happened? He was $11,100. On average, he was 20% owned. He scored 66 DraftKings points with his T29, which is not good, okay? Even if you look at the T29 and go, well, that's not terrible. Well, it is for a guy 11-1, first of all. But he also underperformed. He didn't have a ton of birdies. He had 0 eagles. He had a bunch of bogeys, no bogey-free rounds. People like Ryan Palmer, Dylan Fratelli, and Louis Oosthuizen scored more fantasy points on DraftKings than Brooks Koepka. So the chalk bomb was 100% ballsy AF and accurate AF. Do not chirp at us prior to Sunday. Or, I don't know, just don't do it. I don't know what it's going to take to get this through people's heads. You can't call it too early.
Don't call it early. Now, if it hits on Sunday and everything's all said and done and the chalk bomb was not good, that's fine. You have all rights. You have all. We can take it. We can take the heat there. But you got to wait till Sunday's done. I mean, it's the same really when you're in DFS. Like if you got a hot one running and you're like early on a Sunday and you can't. It's just never done until the very end. I mean,
we had that listener that I went back. This is so awful of me, but it was fun. And he was a good sport about it. I hope he realizes I was messing around with him. And it's too far down our notifications for me to find it. But we had a listener tweet us on Friday with a screenshot. He's winning like 20 grand on Friday night. And he's like, boys, hopefully it holds. And he tweets a screenshot. And I said, you should not have done that. I said, talk to me on Sunday. Well, I go back and I find him. I scroll all the way down and I find him on yesterday. I'm like, how'd you finish? And he goes, not good. And I said, what did we learn? And he's like, well, blah, 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 blah. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have tweeted you early. And I was like, now you know that. And he's like, thanks, Dad. And I was like, thank you, son. I'm glad we had this talk. Now, don't do that again. you cannot, you cannot get too wrapped up about it.
You can't. You got to kind of reel it in a little bit. I had a good friend who, I mean, this is Sunday. Sunday after he'd had 2 players finish, he was in the $200 single entry. It had Ryan Palmer, who had just gone nuts. I guess Sunday. Yep. Yeah, he was 6 under and with an eagle and whatever else. And he had Luke Liss in the house, and then he had 4 to go. 4 guys that were in those last 2 to 3 groups. So he was running. He had a chance, but he was winning $100,000. He was winning the $200 single entry
on Sunday.
On Sunday afternoon, by the time all was said and done, he minimum cashes the $200 single entry. Now that's good. You still won some money.
Yeah,
it ain't 100,000 though. So if you just, that's what happens in these things. So you just got to roll with it. And look, we get all excited and stuff. I think there was a time early in the fall where I was like winning, I think $200,000 after Friday. And it just all fell to pieces. So, I mean,
you just have to keep the excitement within yourself. You can't broadcast it. The minute you broadcast it, you're freaking done.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the board. So you got Brooks, you got Webb up top. For me, I'll go ahead and kind of get into this, and I'll give you another fade, but it's tough for me to play either one of these guys in this field. It's tough for me to play Brooks at 11-4. He's searching. He's still not putting 4 together. This place, doesn't play as much to his strengths as Harding Park did. I don't know that he's completely healthy still. I'm not even sure. I don't know. I mean, I know he's got FedEx Cup points on the line. He's 92nd in the FedEx Cup, and he wants to get, at least to Eastlake, I would imagine. But he's clearly in for next week for the first event of the FedEx Cup. But top 70 get into the next week at the Northern Trust, which is a big deal. It's a no-cut event. It's a big deal. So Brooks is a little motivated, but he's never more motivated than the PGA or than a major. And I'm just not going to pay 11-4 for him in a field where I got to go. Then I got to sink down, and I'm just not going to do it. Webb is interesting. He's won here. He's got a kid named after this place. He's a local-ish guy. Paul Tesori is going to give it a go. I saw it on Twitter earlier today. He's going to give it a go. He's just pumped full of cortisone. He's going to give it a go and get back on the bag for Webb. That is encouraging to me, but I do think what we saw last week is the iron play of Webb fall off a little bit, which has been pretty solid. And you wonder, does that have anything to do with his caddy? Does that have anything to do with a caddy who can think a little more thoroughly through a shot, through a landing area, through a number, through the wind? Can he navigate those situations a little better? Now, obviously, Webb's a very seasoned professional and can do it, but Paul Tesori is his caddy and his coach. So if Tesori's back on the bag, it makes him a little more interesting, but obviously I also think Webb's going to be very chalk up top. So I will go with Patrick Reed in tournaments. I will go with Harris English in tournaments, dropping down. And then I'm going to go with Billy Horschel in tournaments. So those are my 3 GPP plays. Patrick's scoring really well right now. 7th in the field since the restart in birdies or better gained. 13th at the PGA last week. The irons aren't great. The irons scare me a little bit. Obviously, he's scrambling his little rotten, rude dick off, but he's scoring. He's finding a way. He's manufacturing it, right? And at 10-7, I'll take it. Harris English, what can you say about the guy? He's been solid as they come since the restart. Extremely solid. The ball striking's there. He's a putting, just absolute freak. He checks all the boxes off the tee. Iron play, putting, he checks them all. Now, he might be popular at 9,300. I don't know that you're going to get a lot of leverage out of Harris English, but I'll eat the chalk regardless. And then Billy Horschel, a guy who, lackluster finish at the PGA, coming off 3 really good weeks before that, but I love the form. He's also tied for 7th in the field with Patrick Reed in birdies or better gained since the restart, hitting a lot of fairways, hitting a lot of greens in regulation, and his best putting surface over the long-term average, Bermuda. So I will take Reed, English, and Billy Ho in tournaments, and my cash play is going to be Paul Casey. I'm going to go up and play Paul Casey, who I know is $10,300, but I like the way he's hitting it right now. It was good to see him, play well last week. I like Paul Casey. I'm a Paul Casey fan. I think he's got a great record here, T13, T3, T18 the last few times out. So I'm going to pick guys. All of these guys have pretty good records here. English, Casey, Reed, Billy, all have good records, all in good form. And I don't really care what the ownership ends up being. I think I'm just going to roll with those because I think when it comes down to these other ranges, there's just so many names here that I think are so even. Like I can pivot easily. So that's what I'm going to do. Technically my fade, even though I've already given you two, is going to be Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy's irons are not good. He has no history here. His worst putting surface is Bermuda. I think the only reason he's playing here is because he needs the FedEx Cup points. He's ranked 85th. He wants to lock in Northern Trust, I would imagine. Obviously, he's pretty much in for next week, but I think he wants to lock in Northern Trust and give him a shot at Eastlake. But the irons aren't great. He just didn't look good this week. And at 10-5, there's no reason to pay up for him. So that's my breakdown of the 10K range.
Okay, some agreement and some disagreement here. I'll start with my fade, and it's just pretty easy. I'm just fading Brooks. I don't want to pay that high price for him. I think something's wrong with him. I think he might have a little bit of an injury issue. Now, nothing's been said about that. I think there's some speculation there. I was listening to some PGA Tour radio like Saturday night before the Sunday round, and the person that was following him around the course mentioned that he thought that there could be a little bit of an injury issue. He couldn't say it when he was broadcasting on the radio, but he said that's what he thought. So I don't know for sure but I don't like Kepka at 11-4, so I'm not going to play him. I understand he needs the points and all that kind of stuff, but whatever. I like Webb though. I do like him in GPPs. I think, he's obviously been in pretty good form since the restart. He loves this course. He plays extremely well here. I'm not as worried about the caddy situation as you might be. I mean, I think actually you faded him last week, and I thought he had a pretty decent week considering the fact that he didn't have his normal caddy on the bag. I mean, he snuck up in there and, was at least somewhat in contention for a little bit. So I like Webb at 11-2 on a course that he's comfortable on, and everything. I don't
hate the Webb play. I told you I kind of get on the Webb play as long as Tesori's back, but he is going to be the most popular selection for sure in this range, and maybe in the whole field.
I think he'll be extremely popular. But another popular guy that I have as a tournament play, and I could see where you could play him as cash as well, is Paul Casey. I have him as my tournament play here. So for all the same reasons that you did, I think it's a great play, and 10-3 I think is a good price as well. My cash play was actually Billy Horschel at 9,100. I kind of just like that price a little bit better if I'm starting my cash lineup. So I think that Horschel is a good one there. And my last tournament play is Tommy Fleetwood, and I'm just going to continue to hammer. Here's the thing. He's going to get his irons around eventually. I mean, he is way too good of a ball striker for it to just continue to be this way. Now, I get the fact that you don't like him on Bermuda and whatever else. And he lost strokes like on approach majorly last week at the PGA Championship, but still was somehow able to, other than that terrible Sunday round, he was still up there and had himself in it, mainly because he putted extremely well. He gained 2.9 strokes putting last week, so that was important. He's been great scrambling since the restart. So I think Fleetwood could still be a pretty good play. And one of the things we saw with him is his ownership has just been extremely low. So if you're looking at a good low-owned tournament play in this over 9K range, I think Fleetwood could still could give you that leverage. And, he's been – well, he came back at the 3M and was 22, but I mean, that was, 22%, but that was just because it was such a weak field and whatever else. But I don't know. I still think you're going to see after all the play lately and everything else that he's going to be maybe he'll be like 10 to 15% owned. I'm okay with that. I like Fleetwood. I will play him in tournaments. So there you go.
And by the way, just so everybody knows, Abraham Answer, who is listed, has withdrawn, which sucks because I feel like this would be a great spot for him. But I think he's been playing a lot of golf, so he's probably taking a break before the playoff run.
I actually feel like in this category that English could be a fade. I think he could be. Well, if he's higher owned than if he's up there with ownership at 9,300, I think he'd be a good pivot point. By the way, article.
I mean, he will be higher owned, I think, for sure.
I mean, if we're talking about a pivot.
Yeah, but it's tough to find a reason to fade him right now. I mean, other than ownership. I mean, that'd be the only thing. And I usually like to find something other than that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I guess you can always dig into any stat. I mean, I could probably find some stat that says he sucks from 8 feet to 12 feet for whatever reason. But
he sucks in proximity, by the way, in case you want to know.
Well, he's 24th in strokes gained on approach. Like proximity stats, bogus. All right, moving on because I don't want the show to last forever. We get into a proximity argument again. 8K range. I'll make this snappy. My 2 tournament plays for one of the first times I think since the restart, if not the first time. I'm going to play Kiz. I was impressed with Kiz's 19th place finish at the PGA. He backed up his top 25 at the WGC. He's obviously very comfortable on Bermuda. He's in the South, an accuracy course. Of course, he's got a great record at, or not a great record, but a decent record, a couple top 10s his last few attempts. He can score. He can get hot. We all know who lit the Kiz, right? So we know he can get hot. I like the upside scoring for Kiz. So I'll go with him in tournaments. And then I'm going to go with Corey Connors, a guy that last week I talked about on the podcast, but this is why you need to be a Nut Hut member. We got some inside info on Connors late on Wednesday night and shared that in the Nut Hut. Everybody hopefully faded him and he missed the cut. But I'm going to get back on unless I hear otherwise. I'm going to get back on Connors and hope that some people jump off the Corey Connors train. He's just so stupid good, tee to green. This just sets up so nicely for him. He's improved on his first attempt here at Wyndham. He finished 45th, and then the next attempt last year he finished 22nd. He's a terrible putter no matter what surface he's on, but he's actually best or least shitty on Bermuda. But he checks all the boxes, and I think I'm going to get a little break with him in ownership, and he's only 8K. So I'll go with Corey Connors. And then in terms of cash, I'm going to go with Ryan Moore in cash. Pretty solid record here for Ryan Moore. Did not play the PGA because of a family commitment. And that is, it is what it is. I don't know. You can talk about what type of family commitment would be different than getting into a major if your name is Ryan Moore. Like, it's not like he's guaranteed to get into every major, but hey, he's a seasoned veteran. He knows what he's doing. He's clearly valuing the family, so he didn't play the PGA. But before that, we saw him play the Barracuda as well, and he played pretty good. That's a great event, a comparable event for this. You just got to go throw some, go flag hunting. And he did okay at the Barracuda. T12 at the 3M Open. This is a great course for Ryan Moore. So I'm going to go with Ryan Moore in cash. I feel that good about it. My fade is going to be Siwoo Kim. He's playing well. I get that. But he is not hitting fairways. His worst surface is Bermuda. Now, I know he's obviously got a decent record here. Worst surface is Bermuda by a long shot. Like, he's awful on Bermuda. Almost neutral in the other areas. Awful on Bermuda. But if you look short-term and long-term, his fairways hit pretty bad. Fairways gained is the stat on Fantasy National that we like. At the PGA, he did do pretty well. He hit 1.6, he gained 1.6 on fairways there, but every other event since the restart, terrible. In fact, he -8 fairways gained at the workday, and historically not a very accurate driver to the golf ball. And I don't like that I don't feel like at 8,600, am I really getting that much better of a player with that much better upside as I am with Kiz or with Ryan Moore, or with Corey Connors, or even some names down here in the 7K. So I don't love the value with Siwoo Kim, the inconsistency with Siwoo Kim, although he's played better lately. I'm not buying the Siwoo Kim. So there we go.
All right, well, we have some agreement again here, and I think here's the thing with this 8K range. It's kind of weird for me. I think that I'm gonna probably sort of plant my flag on a couple of guys over 9K, and then I'm gonna be dropping down and maybe take one guy in here in this 8K range, but then in the 7K range is where I feel like you're really gonna, have a chance to win the money in that range this week. So, but for the 8K range, I'm with you on Kiz. He was one of my tournament plays. I just like how he's been playing, and this is a tight course that he sort of grew up on and should be able to play well on. So I do like him here. So I will play him as a tournament play. I had Ryan Moore actually as a tournament play for me at 8,100. I think it's just
Take
a good
that too.
price, and I don't think I could see him. You play him in cash. I don't mind that as well,
Yeah.
but for all the same reasons you said, my cash play was actually Brendan Todd up here at 8,900. Another course that's just great for Brendan Todd. I mean, and we're seeing him every week. I mean, he's just always up there at some point. His ball striking is incredible. He's accurate off the tee. He checks the box in opportunities gained. I mentioned that he's 11th in the field there. He's 11th in par 4 scoring, which is something that I look at on a par 70 course. So I think Brendan Todd at 8,900 is just as solid as they get. I will definitely play him in cash and then probably in tournaments as well, because I still think he's probably going to not have a ton of ownership. So I like him. My fade's going to be Sneds. I know he's got, some great course history here and whatever else, but I mean, he's just not really playing great at all when you consider the stats and everything else. I mean, like literally the only thing that he pops in is his scrambling. And other than that, like there's just nothing. So outside of the course history that you see with him, I just haven't seen anything. I mean, he did make the cut last week, but he finished 51st. He was 67th in the WGC, which was a no-cut event. So he probably would have missed the cut anyway if there was a cut, and then missed 2 straight cuts before that. Not a fan of Sneds, despite the course history and everything there. So there you go.
Okay. Why don't you kick us off in the 7K range? 3 tournament plays, a cash play, and a fade.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off at the top at 7,900. I like some Dylan Fratelli. I mentioned him last week.
Yeah, good call on him last week.
As a low 6K, or he was in that. When he was up in the high 6K, I can't remember.
Scored more points than Brooks Koepka, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. I just want to mention that again.
I think you mentioned that once or twice.
Yeah.
But finished 33rd last week. He was, he's on a pretty good run with the T18 at the 3M, top 22 at Memorial. You look at the stats. He's checking the box in ball striking. He's in the top 20 in the field there. Strokes gained approach, scrambling, par 4 scoring. Pretty much. Across the board, he's really been hitting the ball really well. Now he's only played this tournament once, and he missed the cut. I believe it was last year. I don't care about that. I like the way he's playing right now. So at 7,900, I think he is a good tournament play. I'm going back to the well with our boy Tom Lewis at 7,600. I know he burned a lot of people last week, but I think this is another good spot for him. And maybe we'll get a little bit less ownership for him at now that he's pissed everybody off and whatever else. But greens and regulation, ball striking, all of that, he's good. So I like him at 7,600. So I will play him as well. My other tournament play. Can you guess who my other tournament play is?
Bud Colley.
Bud Colley, 7,200.
Man, were you hating yourself on Thursday at the PGA when Bud Colley and Alex Noren were making a run?
It was killing me. And so now I'm going to have to mention him. But, look, he's a good fit here. Checks the box around the greens. He's top 20 in the field in opportunities gained. Par 4 scoring, greens and regulation, good ball striker. You look at his history here. That's actually pretty good as well. He was T22 last year, 42nd in 2017, top 10 in 2016. So a guy who's, and he's been in pretty good recent form. You throw all of that together, I think Bud Colley is a good play at 7,200. So I do like him. My cash play is going to be Lucas Glover at 7,300. I know you were on him last week, I think.
Yeah.
And he screwed you.
Yeah.
But look, he's got the perfect game for this course. The perfect game. It should be. I mean, he should finish top 25 on this tournament every year that he plays it. So I like him at 7,300, and I will play him as well. God, I didn't even write down a fade. Why didn't I write down a fade? I'm going to fade Russell Henley just because I'm tired of Russell Henley right now.
Let's talk about Russell Henley because I do think he is going to be extremely popular. He may give Webb a run for his money as the most popular play overall, but I definitely think he's going to be the most popular play in this range because he's hitting the ball so freaking good. I mean, his irons right now are just absolutely boiling hot. His now he arrives on Bermuda, his best putting surface by a long shot, long term, short term, doesn't matter what you want to look at. Shockingly, he's losing a ton of strokes on the green still. Even at the PGA, lost 4.3 strokes putting. But I mean, his iron play the last 4 weeks, he's gained 7.1 at the PGA, 1.6 at the 3M, 6 at the Workday, 8 at the Travelers. I mean, it's unreal. He's just, his irons are so good.
It's frustrating as hell, and his putter sucks right now, and he's known to be a good putter. He's basically like the Jordan Spieth of the 7K range, or of the he's just not doing. And he's I don't know. But let me if you get Henley, if you keep getting him at high ownership, it's like why you keep chasing that? Like,
here's the shocking fact though. Out of 187 measured shot length events that Russell Henley has played in, guess what his strokes gained putting number is?
43rd.
No, the actual strokes gained. Okay, forget it. Out of 187 events, he's averaged 0.8 strokes gained putting in the positive.
Okay.
So it's not like he's in the positive, but he's actually not a world beater or has been a world beater, putting for his entire career. He just hasn't been as bad as he is right now.
Bermuda is his best surface.
Bermuda's his best surface by a long shot. So I don't know what to do with Henley. I do feel like a chalky Henley is a fade-worthy Henley. I think that makes a lot of sense. And maybe you just bet him. Maybe you fade him in DFS and you bet him a top 10 or bet him outright. And that may be what I end up doing. But he does look to be pretty chalky right now, for sure. All right, my tournament picks in this range. I'm going to pivot off your Fratelli, and I'm going to go with Doc Redman. I'm going to go with the young Doc Redman, the scorer, the guy who is, 6th in this field since the restart in strokes gained approach, 7th in greens and regulation, 28th in fairways gained. He scores. I love Doc here. I will definitely be playing some Doc Redman. In fact, he's also 84th in the FedEx Cup, so he's a kind of a bubble boy wanting to make it in the Northern Trust in a couple of weeks. I feel like that's going to motivate him a little bit. He's a young guy wanting to get to East Lake. A good week here and a good week next week would do a lot for him. And Henley's also got that motivation. I mean, Henley's 118. Obviously, this year, the difference in the FedEx Cup, it doesn't mean as much because these guys aren't fighting for tour cards, but they are still fighting for because everybody, with COVID is going to keep their card, but they are fighting for what, what's the word? Jesus, for what class they're playing out of or whatever you call it.
Status.
So it does status, whatever. Yeah. And they want to make it to the playoffs, right? Like you want to keep the season going and make it to the playoffs. But Henley sits at 118. Like that's as good as he's playing right now. He's got a little extra motivation. Like he's just inside the 125 number to play next week. He needs a big week this week and next week to get into the Northern Trust. I mean, there's some motivation there. That's why I say, like, I don't know. DFS, I'm with you. I think if he's around that 18% or more, I feel like it's a fade. Just because it's Russell Henley.
If you're gonna play Henley this week and you want to see what it's gonna be like, go watch the Scratch Golf video that we did on your week with Fantasy Golf, and pay attention to Friday and the anger and the emotions that we are going through in that video on YouTube. You can find it there on YouTube through Scratch's channel. That is going to be what you're going to be going through with Russell Henley. on Friday is what I think.
It's tough. It is tough. All right, I'm gonna go with Redmond. I think the chalk, another chalk play that is down here, but chalk I'm gonna eat is gonna be HV3. Checks all the boxes. Played well at the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
He's a North Carolina boy. You know, he's made 3 of 4 cuts at the Wyndham. Best finish was a T10 a few times back, which isn't great, but I feel like the floor is good for Harold Varner here. And then I think it comes down to, I don't mind your Glover play, but Henrik Norlander is going to be chalk. I think you could pivot off of Norlander and go down $100 and go to Luke List. I think Norlander is the safer play right now with how he's playing. Just ball striking machine right now, but I also think that List can offer maybe a little better upside. Now List has terrible tournament history here, but he's coming off a solid week at the PGA. He's been playing okay lately. So I'm going to go back to the well with Luke List. T10 at the Memorial a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I'm going to go with Luke List there. And my cash play, I guess I'd go Norlander in cash. I feel good about Norlander. Even at 7,300, I feel good about Norlander. There's a couple other guys that I gave consideration to here. I mean, Jim Furyk is interesting here. Yeah. Anyway,
I think I had HV3. I had Henrik.
I'd probably go HV3 cash, honestly.
I had them both written down as something, they obviously interest me. I think, a good pivot off of if you want to, if you're looking at that 7,300, you're looking at Glover or Norlander, and they might be higher end. I think if you go up, I like going up to Lanto Griffin.
Lanto withdrew.
He did?
Yeah, he withdrew today, I think. Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Then I don't like going up to Atlanta because that would be a bad thing to do.
Yeah. A guy that my fade this week, and I hate to do it, and I hope I'm wrong, is JT Poston, defending champ. Love JT, love Fleener, but man, his irons are so bad right now. I mean, they're not good. He lost 5 shots on approach with his irons at the PGA. He has not been positive in strokes gained approach since the Honda in March. I don't love it. He's got to hit his irons better here. I mean, let's look at last year. I mean, last year when he won, he gained 7 shots with his irons. He had just been playing.
Well documented and said millions of times that he didn't make a bogey the entire 72 holes.
That's right. Yep. First person to do that since Lee Trevino, I believe, to win a tournament like that. Nice. Yeah, so I think JT, man, I mean, he's 144th in this field in strokes gained approach since the restart. That's very no bueno. So I think, the defending champ's got to go. And I don't think he's going to be that popular. I mean, I don't think it's going to give you a big edge, but just if you're kind of new to this and you're looking at him and go, wait a minute, the guy won last year. I mean, he does have the style of game to win here. Maybe a little magic. I would love to be wrong about this one because he's a friend. Fleener's a buddy. We'd love to see him win, but something's got to change here for him pretty soon. All right, let's get to the 6K range. Before we do that, though, Pat, I showed everybody my underwear last week on the podcast. I don't know if you remember that, but I showed everybody my underwear. Really enjoying my fresh new draws from my friends, the Chill Boys. Chill Boys Undies, Minnesota-based company, making some fine and fresh underwears from bamboos. Like who in Minnesota was like, hey, we should make some underwear out of some bamboo. Like what?
Who anywhere decided that?
Huh?
Who anywhere decided that? I've seen that in other places. Like how do we figure out bamboo makes some good threads?
I don't know, but it definitely does. It definitely does. It's lightweight, it's breathable. You can deal with it in humid, hot, 100-degree weather like we have down here in the South. Very comfortable. They've got the anti-chafing slide zone, which I really like. There's a special zone right where your special zone is, and it keeps you from chafing it up when the conditions are brutal. And so our friends at Chill Boys want to give our friends, you the listeners, an opportunity to check them out. You can go to chillboys.com to see the full line of cool, soft boxers and boxer briefs And you can use promo code Tour Junkies to get 15% off your entire first order. The whole order, everything you get, 15% off your first order with promo code Tour Junkies at chillboys.com. 15%. You can thank us later for helping out your boys while you're playing golf, or maybe you're playing a game of pickup basketball, or maybe you're playing pickleball, which I hear is very popular right now. And you're leaning for a forehand, and you feel like your crotch is gonna the friction's gonna cause a spark, which is gonna light your drawers on fire. Well, you need some Chill Boys with that anti-chafing slide zone to hook you up. Thank you, Chill Boys, too, for sponsoring the podcast. We appreciate it. Keeps this thing hustling, keeps it going. Right, Pat?
Yeah.
Cheers to you, Chill Boys.
Yeah. It's very comfortable underwear.
Mm-hmm. All right, 6K range. Any names in the 6K?
I got a few here. I'm going to start at the top at 6,900. I like some Adam Long. I think Adam Long is a.
I thought you would.
You did.
You love Adam Long.
I don't know.
Adam Long is becoming your 6K Bud Collie.
Is he really? Am I mentioning him that much?
Yeah, you are. Which I think actually the last time you mentioned him, he finished runner-up at the 3M. I don't know, but yeah, I think you did. Where does he pop for you? Like, I'm looking at him right now. I'm trying to figure out, where does he pop?
Well, I mean, I think the form is good, is what I like. I mean, he's finished, like you said, he finished second just a few weeks ago at the 3M. He's made the cut at the PGA in an extremely stacked field. 52nd at the Workday. Actually, they got a pretty good field there. As far as the stats are concerned, he's definitely not a great putter on Bermuda, so that doesn't really, throw it, come. And there's not a ton of guys down here, by the way, that just check a ton of boxes, but he's in the top, he's 41st in the field in ball striking, 31st in approach. He's 36 in strokes gained scoring on par fours. So I think that, across the board, I mean, it's not all that bad. Checks the box for me in greens and regulation. When you get down in this range, you're not finding guys that are like top 10 in greens and regulation or top 20. You're just trying to find some guys that are like they're hovering on the edge and they're in the top third of the field relative to everybody else. And that's what I kind of see with Adam Long. So I like him at 6,900. Also a fan of Bryce Garnett at 6,700. I think he's a good play. Now, he actually checks more boxes.
I noticed him too.
I mean, he's ball striking 39th, 32nd in strokes gained approach, 6th in par 4 scoring on, he's 7th in greens and regulation. You look at he's got good course history here.
Great.
He's played here four of the last 5 years. 2 of those were top 20 finishes, and he had a T6 last year. So I think Bryce Garnett at 6,700 makes a ton of sense. Look at it.
Also, strokes gained, sneaky good dancer. You
would know that, not me.
We took to the floor at the Kisner Foundation event last year, and Bryce threw it down. Down for a guy named Bryce. You would think he would just hold up the wall, but not him.
But we haven't seen him in a couple weeks. He didn't get in the PGA, and he didn't obviously play in the WGC. But he was T26 at the 3M. So I think Garnett makes a little bit of sense there. A flyer kind of play for me, and I don't know why, but it's just Keith Mitchell. I want to play Keith Mitchell this week, and at 6,800, I just feel like I saw him play a full round with Tiger, and I thought he hit the ball pretty well, playing with Tiger. Like, I just feel like Keith Mitchell is one of those guys that could be sort of a long shot, just like you're getting him cheap. He's still a stud player. I mean, well, he's not a stud player, but he's still a winner on tour that you're getting at 6,800 on a course that he can kind of dial it back on, and he doesn't have to feel like he has to, bomb it off the tee and whatever else. I like Keith Mitchell at 6,800. It's just a gut play for me.
Yeah, it's like he's around the same price he was at the PGA in a much weaker field, so it just seems like he's undervalued. Hits the ball a freaking mile. And I don't know. It does feel like a weird one. Best putting surface is Bermuda by far. One on Bermuda. It does feel like just kind of he feels like a really high upside, like high floor, but I mean high ceiling, but super low floor, like trunk slamming floor is what Keith could bring you.
So those are my guys in this range.
Okay. I got 4. I got Ryan Armour at 6,800, who feels like the safer kind of low floor cut maker.
Definitely an accurate
really
guy off the tee.
Very accurate, really good record here over the last 3 years. You can take a look at that on your own. But I mean, even since the restart, a T6 and a T4 since the restart at the Travelers and the Rocket Mortgage. That's pretty impressive for Ryan Armour. I'm a little concerned. I was initially a little concerned about the birdies, but since the restart, he's actually 35th in this field in birdies or better gained, which for a guy at 6,800 is actually pretty solid. So he can get warm and go out and make some birdies. Similar to Keith Mitchell at 6,800, I think Will Gordon is the play. A young guy.
I really like that one. I think that one's going to be a sneaky good play this week.
I don't think it's going to be that sneaky. Everybody's loving Will Gordon, but
you're hearing a lot of talk already about Will Gordon.
No, I'm saying like, I'm saying between like this restart, he's caught a lot of attention since the restart. But he hadn't done that great, honestly. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Other than the time he popped
T3 at the Travelers,
whenever it was, yeah.
But yeah, putts okay on Bermuda, 4th in birdie or better gained, hits it a mile. I mean, maybe the longest hitter. I mean, he may be the longest hitter on this in this tournament. I mean, that when he was playing with Matt Wolff in that exhibition match, I think it was for the Rocket, or maybe the 3M. He was out driving. I think he outdrove Matt Wolff. Was it Matt Wolff? Who did he outdrive? He outdrove somebody that was freaking long. He's a long hitter. Now, if he can get his irons dialed in for 1 week, he could run away with this thing. So I like him from the perspective of just another high ceiling kind of guy. But I got 2 really sneaky 1%ers, maybe 2%ers that are stupid cheap that I actually feel pretty good about. Actually, let me give you a bonus one. Chase Seifert at 6,400 seems like a very poor. It just seems like a misprice with how he's been playing. Seifert's 127 in the FedEx Cup. He needs a good week this week, and he can play next week, guarantee himself another week on tour. Irons and ball striking have been very solid since the restart, but that's not the one I was talking about. But he's only 6,400. Love that. All right, at $6,200, Chris Baker, European Tour kind of mainstay guy, stupid accurate, really, really accurate player. He hasn't missed a cut since the restart. He's only played in 2 events, Rocket Mortgage and the 3M Open. But in those 2, struck the ball very well. 9th in strokes gained approach, 23rd in fairways gained, 20th in birdies or better gained. I think Chris Baker at 62 is very interesting. And also, I'm going to go with our boy Hank Lebiota at 6,100. The last time I talked about him was the 3M Open. He finished T26 at the 3M. He's gotten a putting lesson. He's changed a little bit of what he's doing with the flat stick, which I think will work out a little better for him. You know, I mean, since the restart, 13th in strokes gained approach, not too bad. You know, is kind of middle of the pack in terms of fairways, greens and regulation, 35th. $6,100 for Hank. I mean, I think in this field, his upside is probably I think he's probably a T15 upside, maybe T10 even. I could see him T10 here. If Davis Love can win this thing, Hank Lebiota can finish top 10. So I think there's a lot of upside. If you're playing a mass entry GPP contest, I think Lebiota is a very interesting play at 6,100. I'd have a sprinkler too.
So there you go. Either one of those plays. I think those.
You like those?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna go CT Pan. I just felt like
I don't like CT Pan. I don't.
Wow, what's wrong with CT?
I don't know. I just don't like him.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. That's all I got for this range.
Let's get into some sports book bets here. I got some outrights, some top 10s. I got 1 top 20. No matchups posted on GK Sportsbook right now. Pat, you tend to be the short knocker and you like the short odds. So what are you looking at right now?
Well, the shortest guy I'm going to go with, and I mentioned him in the over 10K range that I was going to play him, and that's Tommy Fleetwood at 20-1. I think he is definitely in play with a guy of that caliber of a golfer. I think and he's just, I feel like he's so due to win one of these. So I like Fleetwood at 20-1. My real love, though, is right in that 30 to 40-1 range, and that is Billy Horschel at 35-1, Brendan Todd at 35-1, Ryan Moore at 40-1, and Kiz at the weird number of 42-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook. Those are really my favorite bets when you look on the shorter to middle end right there.
Yeah, that seems like the money range right there, like that starting with that 20-1 Fleetwood. I mean, I just don't know in this field why you would do the 16-1 or 12-1 or 11-1 Webb. Again, but that's just my tolerance. I hate that kind of stuff. So maybe it's sharper to do that, but I'm not doing that. But it does feel like that 20-1 to 50, 55-1 range is really a sweet spot.
A lot of guys out of there, yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to make a case for, a lot of those guys over the other, really. So yeah, I don't mind that range. I had Ryan Moore written down at 40-1, Kiz at 42-1. I had him written down. So yeah, I'm with you there. And then I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna go all the way out to the let's see, where do I want to go? Well, I mentioned Redmond. I like Redmond getting his first PGA Tour event win here at 70-1. I just love the fact that this is a contest that's going to be won at 20 under. And Redmond's an aggressive young player that can take advantage of a couple par fives here in his length. And he's just aggressive. He's a scorer. So I like that. HV3 at 71 is tough to ignore as well. After that, though, man, I mean, Norlander is 90-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. But when you go to a reliable, another sports book that we like to look at, that we feel like has the sharpest golf odds, doesn't mean you want to bet them because they're too sharp. But Norlander's 75-1 on that book, and he's 90-1 here on DraftKings. So you get a little bit of a value there on Henrik. And then after that, like, I'm going to go way out. I mean, we talked about how 3 of the last 5 winners here, in the last 5 years have been triple-digit long shots. JT Poston last year at 100-1. I believe now Siwoo Kim was 150-1 when he won. And then Davis Love III was 500-1 back in 2015. So I'm looking at some long shots, man. You mentioned, well, before I do that, do you have any more in the mid or long range that you want to get to?
The only ones that I will go to, and I'll let you finish this off, was I was with you on HV3 at 70-1. I mentioned Collie as being a play that I liked in DFS. I like him at 90-1. And then my longest guys that I have are Garnett at 100-1, which is crazy because he's at 100-1, but there's a lot of guys priced ahead of him on DraftKings as far as DFS pricing that are much lower odds. So I think that that's a pretty interesting thing with Bryce Garnett at 100-1. And then Ryan Armour, like you said, I like him at 175-1. And then the longest shot guy I have is Matthew Naismith at 200-1. I just think he is, Southern guy. He's this should be a course that he can play well on. I think Naismith is now we've seen him he was started off kind of in the restart sort of hot, and he sort of cooled off a little bit, but I like Naismith at 200-1. So that's it. I'll let you finish it off. Oh, and I have one top 20 bet, but that was it.
Yeah, I got one of those too. I'll throw that out there here in a second. I don't know about Bud Cauley winning this thing, man. I just don't. I don't see him winning. He doesn't seem like a winner. How long has he been on tour? He just can't win. Anyway,
he's had injury issues and whatever else. Like, he can't really. I mean, I don't know. I think he can win.
You want to talk about? I like your Ryan Armour play. In fact, going back to that same sports book that we feel like has pretty sharp numbers, Ryan Armour's 150-1 there, and 170-5, 175-1, 175-1 on DraftKings. A little bit of a value there on DraftKings, but I like the Ryan Armour play. A couple of the upside guys that we both mentioned in the DFS portion that we like because they both can score. They're both big hitters. They can get really hot and go stupid low. your boy Keith Mitchell is at 135 to 1. That's a huge number for a guy who's won on PGA National, loves Bermuda grass, or at least putts best on Bermuda grass. Had a good week at the PGA. I don't know. That's a good number for him, I think. And then Will Gordon at 175 to 1. Another long hitter with that needs some points. Okay. And 175 to 1 on DK Sportsbook, 115 to 1 on the mysterious Sharper Golf Sportsbook. 115 to 1. That's a big difference for Will Gordon. So I'd go ahead and snatch up that 175 while you can on Will Gordon, because I bet it's going down. And then I got a long shot here that's also going to be a top 10 bet for me. Chris Baker, European Tour mainstay that I mentioned in the DFS section as well. Very accurate player. Couple good, decent finishes, couple made cuts since the restart, playing full-time on the PGA Tour right now. He is at 250 to 1 and 22 to 1 as a top 10, which I definitely think he has the ability to do. You ready to get in some top? Do you have any top 10 bets? I got a couple top 10s.
I have no top 10s. I just have one top 20 bet that
I like. Who's your top 20 bet?
I like Scott Stallings, 10 to 1. I mean, I think it's a good setup for him. And I mean, you're getting, 10 to 1.
He's a cut maker, top 20. Yeah, I could see it. I have one top 20 bet, and he's also a top 10 bet. That is Hank Lebiota. He is 14 to 1 for a top 20 and 33 to 1 as a top 10. Like I said, playing a lot better, getting some putting lessons, getting some putting help over the last few weeks. I think that could be good. Harry Higgs at 33 to 1. It's just a long number for a guy who had such a great fall. It's just a big number for a top 10. I feel like we haven't seen Higgs in a couple weeks. Hopefully he's worked some stuff out ball striking wise, because his ball striking really tanked since the restart. I'm believing for something there. Chase Seifert at 18 to 1. Talk about a guy who is ball striking pretty well since the restart. 18 to 1 for a top 10 on Chase. And then finally, a guy that everyone feels like, I don't know, we've forgotten about, but he's a PGA Tour winner. He had some injury issues. He's come back since the restart. He's had a couple of decent finishes since the restart.
I know who you're talking about.
He's a short knocking, accurate guy from South Carolina.
Wesley
very familiar
Bryant.
with Bermuda grass. Wesley Bryant is 22 to 1 for a top 10.
Yeah, I don't mind that, actually.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's this course fits him very well. He's picking his spots in a medical exemption right now. I think this is a good spot for him.
I'm just looking at this looking at these now that I'm kind of scrolling down further. We're getting Kiradech. We're getting Kiradech back this week.
We get Kiradech back this week. Yeah.
Has he played an event since the restart, or am I just haven't noticed him?
He is not. No, he is not. Kiradech is back, baby. I just saw an Instagram video of him playing a practice round. Wow. Super excited about that.
Yeah, he could be interesting. I'm not touting him right now, but I just
I don't. Yeah, he could be. I wonder how much he's been playing. I've been seeing him on Instagram. I love following him on Instagram. He freaking cracks me up on Instagram.
He's probably smoking a bunch of darts on Instagram.
Yeah, he ain't doing. I've seen very little golf from him on Instagram since the COVID. I've seen him on a boat with a Braves hat, and I've seen him with his cars and his girl and his family. That's about all I've seen. I haven't seen any golf. Saw his first golf swing of his on Instagram today, playing a practice round.
Nobody ever talks about this, but I feel like he compares so well with John Daly, but he's not quite as good as John Daly was back in the day. But he's like the modern day John Daly.
I love that guy. I love Kiradech. Big fan. Yeah. Love to have him on the show. Would absolutely love it. Apparently, big fan of hip hop, cars, girls, money. Would just love it. Yeah. And the Braves.
Which is cool. I like that. Yeah, okay. All right.
Let's get into the PGA Championship recap, dude. I mean, so much to talk about. We're not going to get to it all. Morikawa coming down the stretch, piping it on 16 to 7 feet, hammering
what an
home.
amazing shot.
Hammering home the eagle putt. Well, I mean, how about just the turnaround in his putting? I mean, it was a rapid turnaround because he was a awful putter I feel like a month ago. And all of a sudden, he's found something with the flat stick. He's not going to overpower a golf course, but he just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And his irons are so good. Very cool to see him win. Now, do you think he would have won it with fans? Because I definitely think the young guys, these rookies, it just isn't the same when they're playing without fans.
I think that's a good question. I feel like you're probably right. I think it would have been tough for him to win with fans.
I don't think he would have. Yeah, not yet. I think he would have come close, and then he probably would have won the next one.
I think he would have gotten a little bit nervous and whatever else. I think that is a very good point, especially with what was around him. When you think about all the guys that were up there with DJ,
it's insane.
Well, Brooks going into it, but not in the end. I mean, all of them. I mean, I don't think Scheffler would have done as good, by the way, without fans and everything like that. I think he would have been in the same situation. I think Paul Casey would have been fine. Like you could have seen. Actually, Paul Casey probably could have fared well if there were fans. Like he might have won his first major.
He talked about not liking the fact. He talked about the struggle with not having fans. He talked about that.
So I think that's interesting. But I mean that's not to take away anything from what Morikawa did. I mean he came down the stretch and he made all the shots and he made an incredible shot there on 16 and made that putt and everything else. But it was just great to see. It was a fantastic Sunday for a major. I mean, it felt like a major even without fans. It still felt like a major, and which is what you wanted on a great course and everything like that. So,
it was so nice to see. I was just so happy to get a major championship golf back. It was so much fun to watch. I mean, so many names on the leaderboard late. I would have bet, God, I mean, I would have pounded minus 500 that we would have had a playoff with an hour left to go. I cannot believe
we had 6 guys tied at 10 under at one point or 9 under or whatever it was. And you look at Matthew Wolff. I mean, that guy, the putts that he missed after he got himself in contention were I couldn't believe he could have been right there if he just made those few putts. And he was another guy that just came out of nowhere. But yeah, it was. I thought the coverage was fantastic, especially when you go back to
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, it wasn't fantastic. The CBS coverage was fantastic.
No, I'm going back to the ESPN Plus stuff.
Yeah, ESPN was fantastic.
I thought that was great. I liked having Colt Knost in there. I thought he was good. I thought that it was interesting when CBS put Mickelson on for a little bit. Now he's a little bit kind of. I thought Mickelson was great. He talks a little he wanted to talk too much. He wanted to talk too much. I felt like he could have dialed it back just a little bit, but I thought he was really good. So I was a fan of that.
That's a terrible take. I would have him talking the whole time.
No, because he just kept going. He kept going. You can't.
He really didn't though. He really didn't.
You can't dominate the broadcast.
Slow air. You did. You were hammered listening to that or something. He did not do that. There was a number of times where he could have spoken and he didn't speak until they kind of prompted him. What were you doing? Were you day drinking during that? There's no way.
No, I thought he was great. But I thought there were some times where it was a little bit forced.
I needed more. I wanted more. Freaking, especially after the Faldo spat we had. I just wanted all of his vitriol to get all over Faldo, and then all of his followers just absolutely cream themselves sitting at home with nothing to say. I was grateful, we didn't talk. I didn't tout him, and I didn't put it in a write-up, but I did bet Colin Morikawa a few weeks ago for the PGA, so we cashed in on that ticket, which is nice. That made up for the losses everywhere else. We've already talked about Brooks. We won't mention Brooks anymore. The winning Millie Maker lineup we could talk about included Bryson, DJ, obviously Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, and Joel Damon, who we had some information on in the Nut Hut, who we loved and love to see him finish top 10 at a major. That was your winning Millie Maker lineup, scoring 597.5 points. And he ate some chalk there. I mean, DJ, Finau, Morikawa was the highest owned player in the Millie Maker. He ate some chalk with that lineup. But got some leverage with Scotty Scheffler and Joel Damon. So very interesting lineup there. There was a ton of 6 of 6s this week. I mean, I had a 6 of 6 in some high dollar entry contests and finished like 300 spots out of the money. It was ridiculous. So many 6 of 6s this week. So you had to have some leverage for sure. I think in the Millie, it was like 22.5% got 6 of 6 through in the Millie. Yeah, like I said, we had some late night Nut Hut insight that paid off for a number of players. And obviously there was a little bit of a weather advantage on Thursday in the AM PM wave. We had that going for us. I mean, I think, Pat, when it all shook out, the Bombers still prevailed at TPC Harding Park. I mean, obviously Morikawa isn't a bomber. He's not short, but he's long enough. I think when you look at that leaderboard, it was full of bombers, and I think that paid off.
They were still bombing it off the tee, and even though the rough was, now I heard that today actually that they shaved the rough a little bit on Wednesday night, which was for some disappointing from what I heard. So that it did allow those bombers to be able to have a little bit more of an advantage, but. So I kind of wish they might not have done that, but whatever. Yeah, they definitely had. I mean, because they were you saw if you got a good lie out of the rough, you were fine. I mean, and there were a lot of good lies to be had. I mean, I watched a lot of the coverage, and you saw some shitty ones, but for the most part, if these guys took some aggressive lines and got into the first cut or even the second cut, they ended up with some decent lies and were able to take advantage of that. So I think you're right. I mean, I think it did come, the Bombers certainly had the advantage.
We didn't see Bryson playing from the other fairway as much as I thought we would, but because he hits it so freaking straight.
Like I said, those damn trees gobble up the balls.
No, because he hits it so freaking straight. He hits it straight and long, forever long. And
yes,
straight.
He does. But you mentioned like he might spray it and hit it into the other fairways, which we didn't see that.
Dude, he could have
damn trees are so high. The trees are so high, they gobbled up balls.
They're not higher than what he was hitting his ball. No, they're not. Not unless he was landing it on top of the trees, but he could have clearly gone over the tree line and gone into the other fairway.
I think that was a terrible take.
Do you see his shot tracer? Do you see what his shot tracer's like straight up?
I see that. I think the whole take you had last week about, these guys can just play from other fairways and other stuff. Yeah.
I'm saying they could have. I think he could have. There was plenty of room for that.
With balls getting gobbled up. Like we saw 6 balls get gobbled up by the trees. They just ate them. Even our boy Joel Damon, who finished 8 under. Think about Joel Damon. Let's talk about Joel Damon for a second. All right. He lost the ball in the trees, which was 2 shots. And he had a triple bogey on Saturday. That's 5 shots, and he was 8 under. Let's add that up.
Yeah, but I
8,
mean, you could
9,
do all
10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. He could have been right there. You take out those few holes.
Yeah. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, it'd be Christmas all year. But Joel didn't do it. I hated that for him. I wanted him. God, I'm pumped with his top 10 though. How about Gino texting us from the fairway when he hit the ball in the tree? All of a sudden, we're watching it.
Yeah, I was thinking.
No, we're not watching it because they don't ever put Joel on TV, but we're tracking it and we see the double and Gino, and then we get a text from Gino. Hey, just so you know, we put that one in the tree and it never came down. Did you get fired? Did Joel fire you on the course as one of the ShotLink veterans?
He was
caddying for Joel now.
I felt like we went into immediate therapy mode where you and I both were like, "Hey, you still got this. You can do this."
Yeah, we were. Don't let Joel fall apart.
Don't let Joel fall apart. And he didn't. Yeah. He didn't.
He didn't.
That was in the middle of the round. I was kind of surprised that happened.
He didn't. Speaking of falling apart, DJ. I mean, he just, I don't know. I think the fans hurt DJ too. I think even though DJ's so like blah about everything, like I still feel like he could do better with fans, but he crumbled. But here's another hot take though.
Is Paulina there? Like, because they don't show Paulina. Like if Paulina's there at the tournament, usually CBS or whatever station that's covering it's going to try to find a way to take a picture, like
She's
get her
not
on
there.
camera.
She's not
like,
there.
so is she not there? Is that not help? Is that hurting them? You think? Like,
ooh, what if they'd had like a weird? Remember how they like on Sunday they had that weird flash into somebody's living room for a minute?
yeah,
Did you see that? It was like a draft, like an NFL draft night party in somebody's living
yeah,
room. I think one of
yeah.
them was Jason Day. What if they'd had one at Paulina at the crib with Paulina? And she's like sitting there in like a like a leather police officer outfit or something, just watching DJ.
She probably would have had some other people there. And there would have been like
Brooks would have been there. He got off the course. He would have been there.
Can you imagine Brooks and Pauline like sitting there?
Dude, I think Brooks and DJ, something did happen. You know, we heard that in Masters Week a couple years ago when DJ slipped. We heard there was a little run-in with Brooks and Paulina. That was a rumor going around Augusta for a little bit. And then it was like after that, the Brooks and DJ relationship wasn't quite the same. But before that, they were the two best friends that anybody could have. So I don't know. I think there's something to that. Hey, last little hot take I'll give you. I think Tony Finau was ready to win that golf tournament. I think he was ready. I think mentally he was ready to win that golf tournament. Like he came out and shot, what did he shoot, 2 or 3 under? He hit a lot of greens. He just couldn't get a lot of putts to drop. And I think the only bad decision he made was 16. I don't know why you try to hit a hybrid or whatever it was he hit with a draw over the trees on 16. His natural shot shape is a cut. I don't know what he was doing on 16. But other than that, I feel like I could kind of see it. I was watching Tony. I bet him at whatever he was, 55-1. I was watching him. It felt like a different Sunday Finau to me. It just felt a little different to me. It felt like like something kind of clicked. And I feel like when he gets in that position again, we're going to see him attack and score well again. But to see him go out and shoot a 2 under, he shot 2 or 3 under. I can't remember what he did. But to go out and do that on a tough course in a major with all that going around, I just felt like he kind of turned a little bit of a corner, even though that's not going to be the storyline because he finished in a pack of players that just didn't get it done. I saw a little something in Finau that day that made me go, okay, I think he might turn the corner.
I actually agree. I think that people like to hate on him because he hasn't won big tournaments and whatever else, but I thought he played very well on Sunday. I liked what I saw out of him. I think everything we've seen with him over the last month, which has been being in contention a lot, failing, which is not good. But I think he's learning a ton through all of this, and we might be on the brink of like seeing Finau just like totally break out, like which you see with players like that suffer through so many just disappointments, and they learn so much from it. And I feel like we're getting kind of near the precipice of that. Like he's like so close, and I feel like he's about to turn the corner. And I like what I saw out of him on Sunday. It wasn't like just a complete failure for him. So I'm a big fan, and I think that we'll see what happens in the playoffs and other things. But yeah, I like it. I agree.
All right, buddy. You got anything else on the PGA?
That's all I got for now, I think. What else do you got?
I'm good. Let's head over to DraftKings to do some TJ After Dark. Mix this up with a little Wild Leap refill and have some fun. Yeah, it's gonna be a good week. Wyndham is here. FedEx Cup playoffs start next week. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. May your screens be green. See ya.